Welcome back, friends. Today's reading is Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 35. It's a conversation between Jesus and Peter and the disciples about forgiveness, more specifically about the limits of forgiveness. Peter asks, "Lord, how often am I supposed to forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" And that would be a lot. And 7 is a significant number, of course. It means completeness or wholeness. And Jesus blows his mind and says, no, way more than that. Then he tells Peter a parable about a servant who had been called in before a king to ante up on a debt that he could never repay in his lifetime. The king shows mercy. He forgives the debt and sends the servant on his way. But then the servant turns around and holds hostage a debtor to him. He forces him to pay up, and the king is outraged. After all, the king has just shown incredible, extravagant mercy to the servant who has refused to do the same. Now, this parable is a reflection of the forgiveness God has given us of our sin, a debt we could never repay him with all our good works in our whole lifetime. And yet, we sometimes refuse to forgive others. I understand this parable, and I've heard it lots of times, but it's so hard to live out. So every now and then, it helps me to see an example of this with skin on. Now, this week, I was rereading one of my favorite books, The Hiding Place. It's the story of Corrie ten Boom, who was a Christian woman in Holland during World War II. She and her family harbored Jewish refugees. She participated in the underground resistance against Hitler until she herself was arrested and imprisoned in multiple concentration camps. At the end of the war, she returns back to Holland, and then she begins this ministry of helping people heal. At first, it's people who were hurt, victimized by the Nazis in camps and around Europe. She builds a home for them where they can heal. But the more radical story, she actually offers her home up for the healing of SS guards who had endured their own sort of trauma, inflicting brutality on others. Corrie would go around Europe, especially in Germany, and preach the good news of God's forgiveness. And I want to read you this moment where her limits of forgiveness were tested. It was at a church service in Munich that I saw him, the former SS man who had stood guard at the shower room door in the processing center at Ravensbrück. He was the first of our actual jailers that I had seen since that time. And suddenly it was all there, the room full of mocking men, the heaps of clothing. You know, anytime we're asked to forgive someone, we do relive a bit of our trauma, of the wound they inflicted. It's almost the doorway we have to pass through before we can offer forgiveness. He came up to me as the church was emptying, beaming and bowing. "How grateful I am for your message, Fräulein," he said. "To think that, as you say, he has washed my sins away." His hand was thrust out to shake mine, and I, who had preached so often to the people the need to forgive, kept my hand at my side. Even as the angry, vengeful thoughts boiled through me, I saw the sin of them. Jesus Christ had died for this man. Was I going to ask him for more? "Lord Jesus," I prayed, "forgive me and help me to forgive him." I tried to smile. I struggled to raise my hand. I could not. I felt nothing, not even the slightest spark of warmth or charity. And so again, I breathed a silent prayer. "Jesus, I cannot forgive him. Give your forgiveness." As I took his hand, the most incredible thing happened. From my shoulder, along my arm, and through my hand, the current seemed to pass from me to him, while into my heart sprang a love for this stranger that almost overwhelmed me. And so I discovered that it is not on our forgiveness, any more than on our goodness, that the world's healing hinges, but on his. When he tells us to love our enemies, he gives, along with the command, the love itself. I think that's what this parable is getting at. Not just that God forgives us so we should forgive others, but that the power for us to forgive others, once, twice, 77 times, comes from God himself. So, my question for you today is there someone you are harboring a hardness of heart towards, a grudge against, someone you may need to forgive? Is it hard to forgive this person? And can you pray that God would give you forgiveness in your heart? Can you ask God, just what Corey did? Jesus, I cannot forgive him or her. Give your forgiveness. Forgive me and help me to forgive them. And then throw yourself into the mercy of God. Let God's mercy flow through you to that person. We do not forgive in our own strength. It is the strength of God's forgiveness poured out on us that we get to pour out on others. My prayer for you, for us, is that as you forgive, you will experience the love of Jesus in new and very real ways in your life. Blessings on your day, friends, and we'll see you tomorrow.